She's published 5 volumes of short fiction, the latest of which, Your Pick Selected Stories, won the Eric Hoffer Award for Best Story Collection. Her work has appeared in journals and in magazines, including Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine and anthologies, most recently Autumn Noir. Kamanis taps her experience in New York's criminal justice and court systems for her novels of legal suspense and courtroom drama. Power Blind, her 6th novel featuring protagonist Dana Hargrove, was released on January 25th, 2022. Congratulations. Kamanis served on the board of the New York chapter of the Mystery Writers of America from 2018 through 2021. Take it away, Via.
Thank you, Alan. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Good.
yes.
All right. Good. I just don't see myself. Thank you, Alan. Good evening, everyone. Just want to start with a brief mention about Power Blind, my new book. Here it is. I'm so proud of it. It was published 2 weeks ago. It's getting some great positive reviews, so I hope you'll take a look at it. I couldn't decide on a perfect little section from that to read tonight, so instead I'm going to read part of my story in Autumn Noir. It's a creepy little tale that features protagonist National Park Ranger Craig Brinkman, his wife Lee, and their friends Mitch and Wendy Llewellyn, and what happened to them in the National Forest about 7 years ago. The name of the story is Golden Silence. Early October, a formal invitation arrives by mail. Craig puzzles over the envelope, the familiar name and return address embossed on the back flap. Thick pearly stationery promises the hope of permanence. Craig jabs a finger into the little hole at the center and forcefully jerks under the flap, tearing it. A strong, beautiful thing ruined. Inside, the announcement. Join us in celebrating the life of Wendy Graver Llewellyn, devoted wife, loving daughter, cherished sister, passionate outdoors woman. Friends, family, and loved ones will gather on October 19. Craig understands the significance of the date. 7 years to the day after Wendy disappeared. Isn't that the usual number? The years we must endure before declaring a disappeared person dead. Along with the pre-printed card comes a handwritten note from Mitch. Craig, nothing new has happened. I just think it's time. Hope to see you. Signed, Mitch. They haven't spoken since the shock of those frantic days. But the date is a problem. Craig will not attend. On October 19, he's scheduled to meet a Boy Scout troop, the leader, and a handful of tenderfoots, ages 11 and 12. Craig Brinkman, National Park Service Ranger, guide, mentor, steward. Daily work in the forest, where he first met the Llewellyns, is the best way to pay his respects. Believing it proper to send condolences and regrets, Craig finds a notepad and pen in a kitchen drawer. He'll write something down for practice and rewrite it on a card. Lee is sure to have an unused sympathy card around the house, or at least a card with a picture of trees or mountains or skies, blank inside. He'll rummage around later, but for now, with Wendy on his mind, as she has been, off and on, these 7 years, he writes. Or he tries to. The pen hovers. What can be said to a husband who lost his wife and wants to believe she's dead, not merely a runaway? Lee would know what to say. Words for every occasion, even when Craig doesn't want to hear her voice and would rather she kept quiet. But in her absence, he comes up with this. Mitch, very sorry for your loss. Wendy is sorely missed. Safe but impersonal. What about the good years? Wendy and Mitch, Lee and Craig on the trails, in the woods long ago. Those thoughts bring Lee to mind, standing by the kitchen door in shimmering hologram. The stovetop is cold and empty of the dinner she hasn't made. She whispers, go ahead and write something, something that has stayed with you. An appealing idea. Craig picks up the pen and writes, Dear Mitch, may your memories of Wendy sustain you. Did I ever mention the last time I saw her? He stops there, his fist tensing around the pen. The ballpoint gouges the tablet and leaks a sticky blot of ink. Mitch doesn't expect Craig to come to the memorial, but he readies himself for the possibility. So many things about Craig became unlikable. These feelings took hold more than 7 years ago when Mitch was expected to remain sympathetic about Craig's and Lee's separation. Wendy's kindness toward Craig never relented. He needs support at a time like this. Brimming with love and compassion, that's the kind of person Wendy was. She kept visiting the ranger's office to check on Craig, openly, then covertly, making up little lies whenever Mitch asked. A few months later, in the wake of Wendy's disappearance, Mitch's dislike for Craig grew into loathing, an instinctive feeling, gut level, wrapped up in Mitch's fertile imagination. Visions plagued him and persist to this day. Where is Wendy? Lost, injured, fallen, kidnapped, attacked and devoured, unreachable in a ravine or a cave or a remote niche of the forest? Thousands of densely wooded acres were combed to no end. When the search was called off, Craig had said to him, "Maybe it's time you consider the possibility she's alive and well." As in, she left me? Yeah, I know it's hard, how hard it is to admit. Craig's implication disgusted Mitch, but he was decent enough not to respond in kind. He turned his back, and they haven't spoken since. In the forest, Craig gazes at the canopy overhead, a half dozen leaves in their death throes, plucked from their branches by the autumn breeze. They flutter down, gasping on descent, exhaling gases. The distinct aroma of autumn surrounds him, saturates the air and ground, the inside of his mouth and lungs. He's been thinking about the sympathy card. He remembers what he said to Mitch during the search, and he regrets it. When he goes home, he goes to the kitchen table where he left the memorial invitation, Mitch's note, and his writing implements. Pen in hand, he continues what he started. A lasting memory. We should think kindly of the disappeared or departed. No need to mention the aspects of Wendy's character he least admired, all that insistence and nosiness and meddling under the banner of caring. He writes, "Did I ever mention the last time I saw Wendy? She wanted to go off trail to see where Lee and I like to go, our secret place." Mitch's handwritten note stares up at him from the table. "I just think it's time," he wrote. Craig gets up from the kitchen table, goes into the bedroom, and opens the drawer in his bedside table. Without looking, he gropes until his fingers feel that round piece of metal the size of a quarter, but slender, more delicate. In his palm, it shines. Mitch will want to have this. And I'll leave it at that and let you try to guess or imagine what happened in the forest 7 years ago.
That
Thank
was
you.
terrific. Thank you so much. That was
Thank
just
you.
great. And good luck on your new book. And you know what? I'm going down to the DR on Thursday. Is it on Kindle?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Well, there we go.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Number 3 tonight is Catherine Mayerizzi. Catherine is the author of NYPD Detective Chiara Corelli mystery series featuring Corelli and her reluctant partner, Detective P.J. Parker. The 4 books in the series, A Matter of Blood, The Blood Runs Cold, A Message of Blood, and Legacy in the Blood, are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook formats. Catherine has also published 4 romance novels, nice, a general fiction novel, and several romance and mystery short stories. She's an active member of Sisters in Crime and Mystery Writers of America. You may visit her at www.catherinemayerizzi.com. And take it away, Catherine. Where are you? Looking for you. Oh, there you are. You got to unmute.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I'll be reading tonight from the 4th Chiara Corelli mystery, which is I Don't See Myself. Is this visible?
You are on.
Okay.
You're on. We see you. We hear you. You look great.
Okay. Oh, thanks. This is the 4th Chiara Corelli mystery. It'll be out February 22nd. I'll be reading a part of it tonight. And in this mystery, Corelli and Parker at the beginning are wrestling with two murders, trying to figure out, of course, who the murderer is. And they stumble across something that points them towards a white nationalist leader who's a big deal. And they go to interview him. And when they go to his house, they find that he's been murdered. So they had thought he was the killer, and now they were trying to figure out who killed the three of them. This scene takes place at his mother's house, the white nationalist mother's house. They go to talk to her and see if they can get any information that would help. She's also a very, very dedicated white nationalist. And in this book, Parker is the lead on the case. So this is that scene. Detective P.J. Parker here to see Mrs. Davenport. The woman's lip curled. You're the detective? And you are? Parker mentally kicked herself. She should have anticipated this. A Black woman with power would not be welcome in the home of a prominent, unapologetic racist like Philippa Harrington Davenport. I'm Heather, her niece. Wait here. I'll see if she's available. She pushed the door, apparently intending to shut them outside, but Parker's hand shot up and held it open. We'll wait inside, thank you. Parker half expected Davenport to tell her niece to send her around to the back door, and she wasn't going to give her the opportunity. Corelli grinned, taking no shit, I see. It was a gut reaction. I've experienced my fair share of racist microaggressions, but never anything so blatant. Should I have ignored it? Absolutely not. Stick it to Davenport. You're the lead detective on her son's murder case. She has to deal with you on your terms. Philippa Harrington Davenport sat in a throne-like chair with the windows behind her. The diffused light softened everything, her features, the lines of her fancy purple dress, and the faded red of her upswept hair. The picture she presented reminded Parker of warm, romantic paintings she'd seen in museums. Sit, Davenport waved them into chairs facing her and the windows. Parker extended her hand, offering her card. Davenport flinched. Detective P.J. Parker and my partner, Detective Corelli. The woman stared at the card. Or was it her black hand she was staring at? She had to be in her 80s, and she must have been beautiful at one time, but basing your life on hatred seemed to take its toll. Close up, her dyed red hair and heavy makeup emphasized the coldness of her eyes, the thinness of her lips, and the hard lines of her face. There was nothing romantic, warm, or cuddly about this mama. Davenport took the card. What can you tell me about my son's murder? Do you know whether he had any enemies? Davenport glared at Parker. Surely you know who my son is. Why don't you tell me? Any intelligent person would know who my son is, but of course, someone like you might not. If Parker was confident about anything, it was her intelligence. So she let the insinuation hang, but she wouldn't make it easy for the bitch. Someone like me might not what? Philippa hesitated. Might not be aware. Harrington Davenport was the preeminent conservative Republican man in America, head of the most prestigious conservative law firm in the country. He was preparing to announce his run to replace Charles Schumer. She made a face as if saying the Democrat's name made her sick. Who do you think is behind his murder? Davenport peered around Parker. What do you think, Detective Cardelli? Corelli met Davenport's eyes. I'm only here to take notes. Detective Parker is the lead on the case. Rest assured, you're in good hands. She graduated from Yale and then Harvard Law School and was an assistant district attorney before joining the police department. She's more than capable of handling all your questions, and some you haven't even thought of yet. Davenport's eyes narrowed. She seemed to understand Corelli's words as the criticism they were, and she wasn't happy. Surely a man living in a strongly democratic city and state and involved in the white nationalist movement had many enemies, Parker said. And unless I've misunderstood, you also are a major figurehead in that movement. So I would expect you're well aware of the threats. Parker surely would have been dead if the arrows shooting from Davenport's eyes were not figures of speech. I am not just a figurehead. Really? Parker took a minute to decide how to phrase what she was about to say, which she knew she shouldn't, but she thought it might shake the woman a little. I'm surprised that in a movement run by white males who believe women and Black or brown people are less than them, you think you're not a figurehead. Despite what some believe, I am the brains behind this movement. I am the leader. It wasn't my husband or my son. It was, is, and will be me until I decide otherwise. Mission accomplished. Women enraged. That's it.
Thank you. Really excellent.
Thank you.
Really, really excellent. Thank you. Okay, next up is Jeff Markowitz. Mr. Markowitz, welcome. How are you tonight?
Good evening. Thanks, Alan. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm reading tonight a new
Jeff,
story.
you don't want me to introduce you to
Oh,
everybody?
go ahead. Yeah, people know who I am, but
All right,
yeah, go ahead.
because
I wrote it. You might as well
all right,
read
just
it.
go ahead. Everybody knows.
Yeah, read it.
Okay, hold on. Okay, Jeff, aside from being like the first person who spoke to me when I joined MWA, Jeff Markowitz is the author of 5 crime fiction novels, including the award-winning dark comedy Death and White Diamonds. Very good, by the way, I read it. In October 2021, a puzzle hunt based on his novella Motive for Murder raised more than $1 million for services to at-risk children and families in New York City. In 2022, Jeff has short stories due out in Jewish Noir 2 and in Mid-Atlantic Tales. Jeff spent more than 40 years creating community-based programs, services, and supports for children and adults with autism, before retiring in 2018 to devote more time to writing. He is a past president of the New York chapter of Mystery Writers of America. Take it, Jeff.
Thanks, Alan. I'm actually reading a short story from one of those new anthologies. It's Mid-Atlantic Tales. Let me get that up on the screen. I expect within a matter of a couple of days to be able to give you launch information. I expect it'll be out, frankly, very shortly. I've edited it ever so slightly tonight to attempt to approximate the time constraints that Alan gave me. I'll come close. So if the editing's a little choppy in places, that's on me tonight. That's not on the full story, but that might give you a good reason to buy the anthology so you can read the parts that I edited out of tonight's reading. The story's title is No Outlet. You have to know what you're looking for. Driving northbound, there's no way in. But if you go another couple of miles and make a U-turn, heading southbound now, there's an exit off the parkway. Driving down the county road, you look for the unmarked turn. The turn goes nowhere, or so it seems, but you continue to the end of the abandoned roadway. You leave your car and set out on foot on the old wooden walkway that spans the salt marsh. You pass the stilt houses built out over the marsh, abandoned wooden structures collapsing under the weight of unfulfilled dreams. This is a good place for murder, you say. The herons ignore you there in the salt marsh. You were 10 when your family moved. You learned how to catch eels and dig for clams. You spent your afternoons in the cottage watching TV. Mostly you were left on your own. You learned how, I'm sorry, you passed the time by reading. It wasn't easy locating books in the salt marsh, so you read whatever you could find. Your mother's recipe cards, your father's magazines. Your parents warned you to stay away from the stilt houses. In those days, most of them stood empty. To be clear, they didn't really stand. It would be more accurate to say they sagged empty. Exploring a stilt house, you might fall right through the rotting floor. If the tide was in, you would be washed out to sea. At least that's what your parents told you. You were 12 when a woman moved into one of the stilt houses. She was a plain woman of indeterminate age, skinny with a small breasts, but to you, going through puberty, it was as if she had stepped out of one of your father's magazines. She lived alone. At first, you watched from a distance. That was excitement enough for a boy of 13. At 14, you screwed up your courage and walked up near the stilt house. If everything was quiet, you snuck up below a window. You could see a sliver of her bedroom, and sometimes in that sliver, a bit of house dress. Nothing indecent or untoward, but as a boy of 14, you would have had a vivid imagination. You were 15 when she invited you to come inside. You couldn't take your eyes off her bookcase. It was an ancient piece of cheap furniture, the shelves bowed in the middle, but it spanned an entire wall and it was crammed with more books than you had seen in your short life. Everything from Plutarch to Poe, Homer to H.P. Lovecraft. You had no words, but with your eyes, you asked and she nodded yes. You smiled shyly and reached for A Tale of Two Cities. You sat on the floor in her library and read. You didn't notice when it grew dark outside. When it grew light again, you were still on her floor, a pile of books at your side. It's time for you to go, she said. There was a note of sadness in her voice. Can I, you said, looking longingly at the bookcase, come again? Please, she said, this evening would be lovely. You did return that evening and every evening until you read every book in her home. But that came later. First, you had to deal with your parents. As you walked home that morning, you realized that your parents were probably worried about you. After all, you were only 15 and you had been out all night. Your mother was sitting at the kitchen table. You knew that an apology was in order, but you said nothing. Your father beat you until his arm hurt from the effort. That second evening, you learned the woman's name. It was Beverly. You read Welcome to the Monkey House. In the morning, your father gave you another beating. You settled into a routine. Each day began with a beating, then digging for little necks. In the afternoon, the stilt house. You let yourself in and lost yourself in her books. In the morning, you'd return home, receive your beating, and start another day. On the morning of your 16th birthday, by way of a present, your father went easy on the beating, but you were 16. You taunted him. Is that all you got? He looked at your mother and she nodded imperceptibly. Okay then, he said. Your father wasn't angry. He was methodical. That afternoon at the stilt house, Beverly dressed your wounds. By the time she was finished, Beverly's house dress was wet in spots. You stared at the spots. Would you like me to read you a story? Yes, please, you said, grateful for the distraction. She scanned the bookcase, returning with a dog-eared paperback. She began at the beginning. Ours is essentially a tragic age, so we refuse to take it tragically. On your 16th birthday, Beverly took your virginity, and you were grateful for having it taken. That spring, she told you she was pregnant. I'm pregnant, she said, with the same emotion she might have used to say, I bought a toilet plunger. You didn't ask if you were the father. Of course you were the father. Who else was there in the salt marsh? The next morning, you walked in on an argument between your parents. Your mother was yelling and swinging wildly. Your father stood there, absorbing the blows. Who else was there in the salt marsh? Your heart sank with the realization that you were not the father after all. The next morning, your parents were dead. You dragged the bodies out behind the old wooden cottage and dug them a shallow grave, one great blue heron bearing witness. That evening, the still house was empty. The bookcase was there and the books. Everything else was gone. Beverly was gone. Over the next few days, you moved up belongings you could manage from your parents' cottage to the still house. You read widely from Beverly's bookcase. At some point, you began writing stories of your own, knowing that no one would read them. You lived the life of a hermit there in your very own still house. You were 20 when you spotted a man coming down the old wooden walkway. He went past your still house, continuing out to the farthest, most deteriorated property. This man had purchased the relic with plans to construct a modern house with a private boat dock. One by one, the abandoned still houses would be replaced with million-dollar vacation homes. Fortunately, the man slipped and fell on the wet walkway, hitting his head on an old wooden pylon and drowning in the water below the still house. You would have liked to rescue the man, but that was not in your best interest. The construction project was put on hold. But you knew better than to think it would stay on hold forever. You hid in Beverly's still house, wondering how much time you had and how many more accidental deaths would be required. You hid in the still house, making plans. Perhaps you're hiding there still. Thank you.
Thank you. That was terrific.
A little creepier than my normal stuff.
Creepy is good. Remember, these are mystery writers. It's the perfect audience. Okay, Richie Narvaez. And Richie, we want to all congratulate you on the great news about your book and the option and all that. And we all expect invitations to the launch, whatever kind of party that is. And
Of course.
there should be top level booze.
Right,
really-
and shrimp cocktail.
Yes, shrimp cocktail, absolutely. Okay, so hold on, let me put on my glasses because my advanced age can't read close up without glasses. A former president of the MWA New York chapter, Richie Narvaez is the author of Roach Killer and Other Stories, New Yorican, and Hipster Death Rattle, which is terrific, I read it, which has been optioned for a possible TV series on the CW. His YA historical novel, Holly Hernandez and the Death of Disco, won an Agatha Award and an Anthony Award. He lives in the Bronx.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this. It's so nice to do one of these again. It's been a while. So, and thank you everybody for coming. It's nice to see familiar faces. So I'm going to read an excerpt from a short story published in Midnight Hour. This thing by Crooked Lane. It's edited by Abby Vandiver. The story is my sequel to the 1961 movie West Side Story. So if you haven't seen the movie, you may not get all the allusions, but I still hope you enjoy it. It was just nominated. The story was just nominated for an Agatha Award. So that's nice. And the book is available, a Kindle version for $1.99, which is, like 2 plastic bottles of water. So buy this instead and save the planet, I guess. So I'm going to read Docks at Midnight. 30 indoor and outdoor venues on 16 acres, an acropolis of the arts, squatting broadly on what used to be called San Juan Hill, where African Americans and Puerto Ricans once tried to live until they were eminent domained out. A pair of star-crossed fools meet again in misadventure involving blackmail and murder. The continuance of a story that started decades before. The woman limos through 2 hours of traffic to arrive. The man is already there, waiting, ferrying a hand cart stacked with boxes of light bulbs. When she turns and sees him, nothing happens. She looks right through him, doesn't register the hand cart. She wears a dark purple trench coat, a black dress, a large quilted leather bag. Her eyes do not want to settle on him. Perhaps she does not recognize him. To be fair, it has been 40-something years since the trial, and he may look a bit different now. Thicker skin on a wide, swarthy face he was once both conceited about and ashamed of. But his hair has never been better. She must be here for the opera. Eugene Onegin tonight. She is still oh so pretty. How old must she be, he wonders, 60, 61? Time has been kind to her. Of course it would be. She looks polite, refined, well-bred, and mature. But what is that he sees in her eyes that are looking beyond him? Pain, expectation. He must talk to her. He will probably never have this chance again. Just as he steps forward, some kid, some delinquent appears from the crowd and grabs her leather purse. She resists, but the kid tugs hard and the purse comes free and the kid stumbles, then flies. A bird. She screams. The kid is past the fountain and down the stairs, disappearing down Columbus Avenue so fast, a rocket in his pocket. He tries to keep up. He is short but fast. He used to run, dance, fly up and down these streets all day long, but that was a long time ago. The last he sees is the kid's high tops disappearing into a mob of tourists, gone. Out of breath, he searches for her in the milling crowds, and there she stands by the fountain, as if she were its statue. She stares out at nothing, but as he approaches, he sees recognition in her eyes. A lifetime ago, he had sworn he loved this woman, but it had been 40 years since he had killed the man she loved. He did it to prove that he loved her, to show his bravery, and to save her from that come mierda. In the end, it was for nothing. Chino, she says, spitting it out. Maria, he says, you hurt? She won't look at him, no. Sorry, he was so fast. You cancel your credit cards, no? That's what you do. I needed that purse, she says. Not the purse, what was in it. That's what you do. He sees that her shin is bleeding. She must have been cut when that kid yanked the purse. You're hurt, you don't understand. You don't understand, she spits out. There was $20,000 in that bag, 20,000 in cash and jewelry, Chino. When she says his name, it's like a curse. In cash, you shouldn't, she sighs. I don't carry around that kind of money. I'm not stupid. I'm being blackmailed. ¿Qué? It's none of your business, Chino. Go back to whatever you were doing and leave me alone. You're going to bleed all over your nice shoes, he says. At least let me bandage that. She says nothing, ignores him. Chino decides on drastic action. He stands back and bows dramatically. And as he bows, he rips the dark toupee off his head and doffs it like a hat. Cool air on his open scalp. It's nice to meet you, mademoiselle, he says. Mademoiselle, you're a fool. There is the slightest suggestion of a smile on Maria's face. It disappears quickly, and she is clearly more relaxed. Come, he says, ven conmigo. She lets him lead her to a staff entrance and past the costume department and down to the locker room. He gets alcohol and Band-Aids, and on his knees, he covers her wounds. My husband is a successful man, she says, a doctor. We have two beautiful daughters, Natalie and MWANY. One of them is a teacher. She's poor but happy. The other one, excuse me, she wanted to be an actress ever since she was a girl. She has no luck, always needs money. She meets these men for I don't know what. And one of them is Mike. He says he took pictures of her doing terrible things. Now he wants money, or her life and my husband's will be ruined. Chino notices that she is not crying. This is not the same Maria he knew from years ago. She's made of concrete and steel now. Maybe he is the one who did that to her. I was supposed to give him money, the money at midnight under the highway, she says. And he was going to give me the pictures. Now the money is gone. But lousy luck. Chino wants to help her, must help her. This Mike, he says, does he have backups? Copias? No, I think he just wants the money quick. Espera. I have an idea, Chino says, taking her hand. Arise, Maria, arise. And that's just the beginning of the story. So if you want to read more, it's in Midnight Hour. Thank you. Thanks,
Wow.
Jeff. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Richie. Now, to wrap up tonight, last but not least, we have Teal James Glenn. Teal James Glenn's poetry and short stories have been printed in over 200 magazines, including Weird Tales, Mystery Weekly.
So this
Pulp
is going to be
Adventure,
done at 7.
Space and Time, Mad, Sir Silva, Silverblade, and Sherlock Holmes Mystery. His novel, A Cowboy in Carpathia, a Bob Howard adventure, won Best Novel 2021 in the Pulp Factory Award. He's also the winner of the 2021 Pulp Arc Award for Best Author. His website is theurbanswashbuckler.com. A couple other things. He's had some other great stories. Best Peony winner, Best Thriller Novel, Best Steampunk Short, multiple finalists, Best Fantasy Short Stories collections, and he's a member of HWA, MWA, HNS, ITWA. Visit him at theurbanswashbuckler.com. And Teal, it's all yours. Unmute, Teal.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, to continue our blackmail theme, I'm going to read from Cultists Always Ring Twice, which is one of the books in my Maxie and Moxie mystery series that will actually be coming out this February from Bold Venture Press. So we're in Hollywood in 1938. The flashback floozy. My name is Michael Aloysius Donovan, AKA Moxie. I'm an inkslinger by trade. That is, a reporter who has devolved down the evolutionary scale to work as a press agent for Universal Studios, where my wife is a contract star. I was sitting in my office on the lot when my part of this story began, like most of my stories have of late, with a body. Only this body was 5 feet 2 of female pulchritude, poured into a red sheath dress, and was still breathing and talking. I need your help sleuthing, Moxie. The dame in the sheath had an urgency to her southern drawl, and it was a drawl I knew well. She was like a shimmering ghost from my past. On the silver screen, she was known to the wide world as Gloria Laredo, sultry Latin star. But when we had dated, she had been plain old Maria Caliento. Now, she was not that plain or that old. Why my help, Maria, Gloria? I asked, trying to maintain a professional demeanor. Why not go to Turner or Marlowe or one of the other 24 private dicks in this la-la land? I'm just a news hack, and not even for the same studio you're under contract to. I'm not a detective. Because I don't want them to see anything like this, especially that Wolf Turner. Here, look, Moxie. She pulled out a glossy photo from her handbag and plunked it on my desk. I leaned in to take a gander, and my peepers almost jumped out of my head. The black and white photo had obviously been taken from a frame of movie film, blown up so not so grainy you couldn't tell what was going on. It showed 2 people doing the horizontal mambo in clear enough detail to show me that one of them was Maria, aka Gloria. Blackmail? The dirty word was hard to force out of my lips. Yes, she said in a whisper. 6 weeks now. You paid out money? Oh, I have. They promised to give me the negative of the film, but never have. Every 2 weeks, there's been another note seeking more money. I shook my head in disgust. Blackmail was filthy, and the extortionists almost never gave up their trump card, no matter how much money the victim paid. Worse bloodsuckers than vampires or lawyers. I opened a drawer and pulled out some single malt and 2 glasses. I poured one for each of us and clinked glasses with her in a silent toast to old times. She shot back hers like a lost soul in a desert. I nursed mine a while. I'm not being a Weisenheimer on this, Gloria, but what do you want from me exactly? Do you know who the guy is who's doing this? I don't know. She held out her glass and I refilled it. All I know is that if this gets out, my career is over. The morals clause in the studio contract, you know. She threw back the drink and coughed. I look like a cheap whore. The cough turned into a sob, and the sob opened the floodgates to a full waterworks show. In Kansas City, I'd never seen her cry except on stage, so it was a shock to see it in the real world. I popped out of my chair and grabbed her so she could cry on my shoulder. And that's how my wife found us when she burst through the door. No good deed, no good punished. My wife, the former Maxine Gladys Kellerman of the Bronx, froze in the doorway, the smile of surprise on her lips and her green eyes suddenly blazing in a way that made me feel abruptly like I was the cat that had been caught with the canary half stuffed in his mouth. "Hi, Moxie," I said, with every bit of unstained discussion and all the courage I could muster. "I didn't expect you." "It's pretty clear you didn't." Her tone and attitude dropped the temperature of the room 10 degrees. "Do I get introduced?" Gloria noticed Maxie then and pulled her face out of my chest. Her eyes were a mess, the mascara coursing down her cheeks like war paint. "Mrs. Maxie Donovan," I said formally. "May I introduce Miss Gloria Laredo?" Gloria tried to pull herself together. "Hello. I know how this must look, but..." "Oh, no, not at all," Maxie said with no warming of her sub-zero tone. "I find women melting on my husband all the time." And that's from Cultists Always Ring Twice.
Thank you so much. That was really excellent. And I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. This was great. And, you know, I think this is evidence that while we write alone, we need to share time together to sort of share our work and what's in our minds. And with that said, I hope we'll see each other soon. Con, are you there? I mean, yeah, Con, are you there by any chance? Al?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm gonna click off. Or, do you need me to stay on?
Nope, I'm going to shut it down.
Okay,
Take
be
care,
well,
everyone.
everyone.
Have a
Stay
great week.
healthy.
See
We'll
you
see
soon.
you soon. Bye.